Surprise, surprise. We have more news about One Piece possibly ending. I've talked about this before, and I'll link the video below where I discussed news coming out about One Piece ending in 5 years again, but we have some more recent stuff. So I just wanted to update you guys as to what's going on, what people are talking about. I thought about not talking about it because I've talked about some of these things before, but we got some new information. Some of it is pretty status quo, but I'm just going to go through it, and I'm going to link below. Of course, a lot of people translated this information, but after Sandman did it on Twitter, typically Sandman is the source I normally use for translations in regards to interviews and things of that nature. So two very important guests were invited to the recent One Piece event in Saudi Arabia. One of the guests are Shinji Shimizu, and he's the managing director at Toei Animation. And the other was Haishi, and he is a Jump editor. And in these interviews, people blow smoke and they talk a lot and they exaggerate. And in this instance, I don't think it's that different, but it gives some insight in regards to the end of One Piece. So I just want to touch on that and then give my thoughts based on everything they said. So Shimizu, who is the managing director at Toei, like I said, he says he already knows what will happen in the Wano arc and says the ending of the Wano arc will be surprising. Okay. One of the things that was surprising with this was that Oda trusts a lot of people with this important information. Of course, he's the managing director at Toei, so he's one of the top dogs there, if not the top dog. So I guess he should know how these things end, but I wonder how many people actually know how the Wano arc will end. Saying the end of the Wano arc will be surprising, I think that brings up a lot of thoughts. I mean, does something happen to Luffy? Do they lose? Does someone important die? Saying it will be surprising means that it will go away from the formula. Typically, One Piece arcs, they go to an island, they meet someone, they then find reason for defeating whoever the boss is of that arc, and at the end, Luffy defeats the final boss. In One Piece, there have been a few surprising arcs. I think Marineford was a surprise based on the ending. Sabaody definitely was a surprise based on the ending because you assumed that the Straw Hats would get away. In regards to surprising endings, I expect that. Something on Sabaody or Marineford level. As though at the end Jack was defeated. Of course, Sanji going to Whole Cake Island, a complete surprise, but saying it will be surprising, meaning it's not going to follow the format or the formula of Luffy just defeating Big Mom and Kaido. Speaking of Big Mom and Kaido, they were also mentioned in this interview. Shimizu also says he knows how One Piece will end, but he's going to refrain from spilling the beans because Oda would be mad at him. I mean, obviously, Oda doesn't want the ending of One Piece to be revealed until, well, the end of One Piece. Shimizu also said that Oda said to him, so much of the audience were moved at the story of Ace's death, but I'm pretty sure that the ending of One Piece will be much more touching. And Sandman goes on to say he didn't use the word sad, just neutral, touching. Some translations that I read earlier in the week said that the ending of One Piece will be more emotional than Ace's death. This direct translation is saying it's just going to be more touching. I have some feelings about Ace's death and how that was executed and everything that played out. I do think that it was touching and emotional, but I think the aftermath of that was a lot more significant because in the time that it happened, you weren't sure exactly what was going on. You weren't sure that Ace was actually dead. Of course, if you didn't get spoiled. So for me, it didn't hit me until actually after the ASL flashback. The ending of One Piece being more touching than Ace's death would signify that there is great loss to come. And also at the end of One Piece, we're going to get some information that's going to reveal a sad history. That's really how I took it. Heishi, who is the Jump editor, says he doesn't know the ending of One Piece and that he doesn't want to know because he's looking forward to what will happen in the future. Going back to Shimizu, he says that the Wano arc is a story where Luffy and others fight against Kaido and Big Mom. At the beginning of Wano, this would have been a spoiler because Big Mom didn't show up in Wano yet. Now it's okay. We know this. Big Mom is in Wano, Kaido's in Wano. They have an alliance. Luffy and the Scabbards and his alliance, they're going up against Kaido and Big Mom. In the translation I saw as well, it was somehow implying that Luffy will be fighting in some way solo against Kaido and Big Mom, which doesn't make any sense. I don't think Luffy takes out Kaido and Big Mom. I think, other people get a chance to shine. You have two Yonko there. It's a lot of spoils to go around. So this statement, unless in Saudi Arabia, they're not caught up and the Wano arc is just beginning over there, which I don't think so. I don't see the point of that statement. Obviously, that's what the arc is about. Shimizu also said Oda told him when the Wano arc is over, that would mean the ending of One Piece will be in sight. It's funny, in a stream recently, this weekend, with some of my friends, we were talking about, is One Piece in the end game? And we're trying to decide and figure out the exact catalyst, what led to the end game of One Piece. And for me personally, I thought it was Law and his speech at Punk Hazard, and that may be a separate video, the catalyst to the end game of One Piece. But him saying that when Wano arc is over, it means the ending of One Piece will be in sight, a lot of people figured that, because after Wano, We assume Elbaf and the world government stuff, maybe some Shanks and Blackbeard stuff. There's not a lot more to go over. There's a ton of mysteries that we want to figure out, but those can be thrown in there throughout the story. Wano is going to be an important arc in regards to the endgame of One Piece based on the fact that the Kozuki clan, they created the poneglyphs, the impact of Odin, the Rocks Pirates. So the Wano arc is going to cover a lot of information. Of course, that's going to be relating to the end of One Piece that is going to, in some ways, push us towards the ending. I would say this, sometimes when they say an arc is going to be important to the endgame of One Piece, I'm skeptical because you can say Skypiea was important to the endgame of One Piece. Zoe was important to the endgame of One Piece. Even Dressrosa, with everything that went on in Dressrosa, important to the endgame of One Piece because with Doflamingo falling, then that led to the Throne Wars. You can say the Reverie is important to the endgame of One Piece because it got revealed that the Gorosei, they're not the highest power in the One Piece world, it's actually Imu-sama. So saying that Wano is important to the endgame of One Piece, I take it with a grain of salt, but based on what's been revealed, poneglyphs, Kozuki, Odin, I think Wano is going to be super important in regards to the end. They went on to talk about the anime, and I thought this was important, and I don't know exactly how to take this. First, they said the anime staff, they specify the color schemes of characters, but Oda sometimes give them an advice by saying use much more vivid color. I know sometimes we see in the anime these bright colors for certain characters. That's Oda's suggestion, it seems like. Like he likes One Piece being a colorful and vibrant series, in the anime at least. They also say the outfits of the Straw Hats are hard to draw because of the patterns in traditional Japanese clothes, so the anime staffers rely on CG, which is interesting. I did not realize that at all. This is the key thing that I took away from it, where Shimizu says that Oda is a mangaka who thinks manga and anime are different stuff. Oda tells the anime staff not to feel too stressed. For me, instantly I think about canon and non-canon. Is Oda saying they are indeed two different mediums, so you should not use one to validate the other? By saying they're two different things, that's what you're implying. You're saying, okay, the anime and manga, they're different, so they shouldn't feel too stressed. But for us as the readers, the anime, a lot of times they add filler and they add things which sometimes it explains things better, then sometimes it makes things more confusing. So saying it's something different and that they shouldn't feel too stressed, I think that's a lot of stress. Because you have to adapt the source material properly, because then it could lead to different misconceptions and understanding of the story. So we'll wait and see if we get some more information in regards to that, but that was a bit worrisome, that specific statement. The other stuff was basically how Saudi Arabia fans seems like they're the greatest, and that's from the Jump editor saying he's visited Taiwan, the US, Europe, as a guest in OP events, and Saudi Arabia, those fans go crazy anytime they have events like those, which makes sense. Well, I guess in regards to the US, because One Piece, as big as it is, hasn't crossed over like even Boku no Hero Academia in the US as yet. And personally, I don't think it ever will. So that's the end of that interview. There were actually two important interviews that happened recently. One is with Naito, Oda's direct editor. And the interview with Naito was roughly 4 days ago. And I'm just going to touch on the important stuff because it's a bunch of fluff and filler in there. We're here to talk about the fans of China and French and all this stuff. As cool as that is, I guess, we don't care about that. Let's talk about how they said Wano will be super important to the final chapter in One Piece. This is from Naito, Oda's editor, and says, the Wano arc is a story which is heavily related to the final chapter of One Piece. Naito says that the flashbacks in the Wano arc will handle the legendary adventures of Roger. The Wano arc is the most important arc that will be related to the biggest secret about what the One Piece is as a treasure. Based on that information, the interviewer was so shocked to hear those words. They asked Naito, is this okay to publish? And Naito said that Oda had already approved those words. Well, they said the anime staff consulted Oda several times regarding the eternal pose to Laugh Tale. So I'm thinking that's a canon thing, that an eternal pose does exist. And in regards to the Laugh Tale stuff, I really can't figure out exactly what they're trying to say, because this is a quote. All successive OP editors had already heard from Oda about the spellings and meanings of Laugh Tale. Naito says it means important settings, including Laugh Tale, have never changed for these 20 years. Take that for what it's worth. So this is the big thing about One Piece ending in 5 years. This tells that Oda is starting to notice that fans are not as engaged as they're used to, because Naito says that honestly Wano is such an important arc that fans who stopped reading One Piece should come back, which means it's gotten all the way to the top that One Piece just isn't as popular as it used to be, which it isn't. I mean, One Piece was blowing everything away. Now it's winning still, but it's slight margins. He also said it'll be disappointing if former fans get to know big news such as someone died or One Piece as a treasure turned out to be, etc., through Twitter or Facebook, which typically happens a lot. People get spoiled on social media a lot, so that's inevitable. The main news, the most important thing that was said here. He said he can't help doubting that One Piece will end in 5 years from what he heard from Oda about future stories. But at the same time, he says now that Oda himself said it with certainty he believes Oda will finish One Piece in 5 years. He says also that the pacing in the Wano arc is so rushed that One Piece can finish in 5 years. So I made a video about Oda and his interview with YouTubers in August 2019, in which he said he would like to finish One Piece in 5 years. Now he's telling his editor he would like to finish in 5 years with certainty. Naito says he doubts it based on the stories Oda has told him, but he also says based on the pacing in Wano, it seems so rushed that One Piece could finish in 5 years. That's something we've talked about as well. In the Wano arc, a lot of things are being skipped and cut, so it feels rushed and it feels like things aren't being as fleshed out as they should be, and Oda's editor confirmed that. The cutaways, the flashback montage, the flashback started really slow, and I'm not sure if Oda felt like, okay, this is taking too long, let me montage all of it in one chapter, because that's how it felt. So with these two interviews, I will link the source below so you guys can go read it for yourselves, all the information. And also for 963, it confirms that it will have 17 pages. So with all that being said, I think One Piece is going to end in 5 to 7 years. I think 7 years max. There was also information floating around about them wanting to animate some of the cover stories. And I don't see that being mentioned here by Sandman, so I'm not going to elaborate, but I'll say this. Cover stories have been animated before. And I think for One Piece, even though it would end in 5 to 7 years, One Piece has so much material, it could last for the next 20 years where you're making specials, OVAs, things of that nature, even without making a prequel or sequel. That's how much information is within the story of One Piece. So I'll end with this. The end of One Piece is incoming, and I'm going to start making more endgame One Piece things because I feel it, and I think the fans feel it as well, that One Piece is coming to a close. We're in the endgame now. And I think the sooner we accept that, the better the ending will be for all of us. Because if you wait too long and then you find out One Piece is ending like, oh my God, next year, and that's happened to Naruto, Bleach, even Toriko fans, but they were somewhat rushed. Hopefully Oda takes his time and complete the story the way he wants to, because 5 years seems rather swift. And I'm just hoping for an amazing ending. So with that, those are my thoughts. Leave your thoughts below. I would like to know all of you guys' thoughts on this information because it's really important. Make sure to like, subscribe, check out Sandman's Twitter below. Check out my Twitter below as well at BragoDAce. Check out my Instagram as well at BragoD.Ace. Hit me up. Again, like, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.